Hey there, welcome back to Story Slices, where we slice through the best Reddit tales just for you. Let's dive right into the first story. The first one is the Tittle story, and it starts like this. 5 years ago, my grandfather passed away, leaving me his modest lakefront cabin that had been in our family for over 6 decades. It wasn't anything fancy, just a small 2-bedroom structure sitting on about an acre with 100 feet of pristine lake frontage. Growing up, I spent every summer at that cabin with my grandfather. He taught me how to fish, how to identify bird calls, and most importantly, how to appreciate the quiet beauty of nature. Those memories sustained me through my hectic career in financial consulting, where 60-hour workweeks were the norm. When I inherited the property, I barely had time to visit. The cabin sat mostly unused while I focused on climbing the corporate ladder. I paid the taxes and had a local handyman check on it occasionally, but that was about it. Meanwhile, the lakefront community had gradually transformed. What was once a collection of modest family cabins was slowly becoming an enclave of luxury vacation homes for the wealthy. 2 years ago, the property next to mine sold to a woman I'll simply call the neighbor. She immediately began renovating her already substantial house, turning it into something that wouldn't look out of place in an architectural magazine. From the few encounters I had with her, I quickly realized she viewed herself as above the other residents. She made comments about upgrading the lake's image and bringing some class to the area. I mostly avoided her, focusing on my own business during my infrequent visits. Last year, I finally decided it was time for a change. The corporate grind had worn me down, and I found myself yearning for the peace I remembered from those childhood summers. I took a sabbatical from work and planned to renovate the cabin as a potential early retirement project. The trouble began on a Saturday in early May. I was on the dock, replacing some rotted boards, when I noticed 2 men in crisp business attire walking down my gravel driveway. They looked completely out of place, their polished shoes collecting dust as they approached. "Excuse me," the taller one called out. "Are you the owner of this property?" I nodded, setting down my tools and walking up to meet them. They introduced themselves as representatives from Lakeview Property Management, a company I'd never heard of. "We're here regarding a property line discrepancy," the shorter man explained, pulling out a folder of official-looking documents. "Our client owns the adjacent property and has commissioned a new survey that indicates approximately 30 feet of this shoreline actually belongs to her." I felt a chill despite the warm spring day. That's not possible. This property has been in my family for over 60 years. The boundaries are well established. The taller man gave me what I can only describe as a practiced sympathetic look. These things happen, especially with older properties. Surveys from decades ago weren't as precise as modern methods. He handed me several papers, including what appeared to be a survey diagram showing a property line cutting diagonally through what I knew was my land, giving a significant portion of my lakefront to my neighbor. "Our client is prepared to be generous," the shorter man added. "She understands this must be upsetting, but she's willing to offer fair compensation to avoid costly legal complications." The taller one nodded. "Property disputes can drag on for years and cost tens of thousands in legal fees. Our client is simply trying to correct a historical error while being fair to everyone involved." Something felt off about the whole interaction. The documents looked professional at first glance, but when I asked to see the surveyor's license number and state certification, they glossed over my question and redirected the conversation. "We need to resolve this by next Friday," the shorter man stated firmly. "Our client has contractors scheduled to begin work on her expanded lakefront area." I kept my composure despite the growing knot in my stomach. "I'll need to review these with my attorney before discussing anything further." Their polite demeanor shifted subtly. The taller man stepped closer. "Look, I understand you want to protect what you think is yours, but our client doesn't appreciate difficulty. Are you sure you can afford the legal battle that would follow? She has resources that, frankly, you probably don't." I noticed the shorter man had walked toward the shore and was taking photos of my dock and the property line. When I asked what he was doing, he claimed it was standard documentation. "I think we're done for today," I said firmly. "Please leave my property until I've consulted my attorney." They exchanged glances before the taller one handed me a business card. "We'll be in touch next week. I hope you'll reconsider a peaceful resolution." As they walked away, the shorter one turned back. "Just so you know, we'll be returning with enforcement if necessary. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." After they left, I immediately called my family's lawyer, who had handled my grandfather's estate. He couldn't see me until Monday, so I spent a restless weekend researching property law and reviewing the documents they'd left. Something about the survey didn't look right compared to the documentation I had from when my grandfather had the property surveyed 15 years earlier. The next morning, I woke early to the sound of a motorboat. Looking out my window, I was shocked to see someone had removed part of my dock overnight, the end section that extended farthest into the lake. Even more disturbing, several survey stakes had appeared overnight, forming a line that cut through my property exactly as shown in the suspicious survey. I grabbed my phone and called the local sheriff's department. When the deputy arrived, he viewed it as a civil matter and could only file a report about the dock damage. He advised me to hire a lawyer and get a new survey. Monday couldn't come fast enough. When I finally sat down with my lawyer, he reviewed both the documents the men had provided and my grandfather's paperwork. "This is concerning," he said, pointing to several discrepancies in the documents. "The survey they provided doesn't match county records, and the company letterhead doesn't exist in any business registry I can find." He made some calls while I waited anxiously in his office. When he hung up the phone, his expression was grim. "I've spoken with the county recorder's office. Your property boundaries are exactly as your grandfather's documents show, with no disputes or amendments filed. More concerning, the surveyor whose stamp appears on these documents says he never conducted this survey. His professional seal appears to have been forged." My stomach dropped. So these men were trying to scam me? It appears so. And it might not be the first time. The clerk mentioned there was a similar situation last year at another lake in the county, but the case was settled privately before any charges were filed. Over the next week, things escalated quickly. The neighbor began telling other residents that I was trying to infringe on her property. While shopping at the local market, I overheard two seasonal residents discussing how that stubborn man won't accept the new survey showing he's encroaching on that poor woman's frontage. I hired a licensed surveyor who confirmed my property lines were exactly as my grandfather's documents showed. When the surveyor placed official markers, they were removed overnight. I installed security cameras that captured blurry footage of people on my property after midnight, but their faces weren't clear enough for identification. The confrontation I'd been dreading happened about 2 weeks after the initial visit. I was clearing brush when the neighbor herself appeared at the disputed boundary line. "I understand you're refusing to acknowledge the correct property boundaries," she said without any greeting. I tried to remain calm. "The boundaries are correctly marked according to 60 years of documentation and a fresh survey I just commissioned." She laughed, a sound entirely without humor. "Do you have any idea who you're dealing with? I've donated more to the county commissioner's re-election campaign than you probably make in a year." "This isn't about money or influence," I replied. "It's about what's legal and right." Her expression hardened. "People like you don't belong on this lake. I have connections you couldn't imagine. This will go much easier if you just accept the inevitable." Before I could respond, she turned and walked back to her house, her expensive shoes leaving perfect imprints in the soft dirt. The next day, I returned from a supply run to find workers clearing trees in the disputed area of my property. When I confronted them, they claimed they were working for the rightful property owner and had permits. When I called the sheriff again, the workers left before deputies arrived, taking their equipment but leaving behind several felled trees. I realized I needed a more aggressive strategy. First, I upgraded to high-definition security cameras covering every angle of my property, with backup power and cloud storage. Next, I hired a specialized real estate attorney who had experience with property fraud cases. The cost was substantial, but the stakes were too high to skimp on legal protection. My new attorney dug deeper into the backgrounds of the two agents and discovered both had criminal records for fraud in other states. More disturbing, he found 3 cases in neighboring counties where waterfront property owners had faced similar situations, with mysterious survey discrepancies and intimidation tactics. In those cases, the owners had either sold under pressure or agreed to unfavorable settlements. The attorney helped me file formal complaints with the district attorney's office, the state's real estate commission, and the surveyor licensing board. We also filed civil actions for trespassing, property damage, fraud, and harassment. During this time, I discovered a box of my grandfather's old photographs in the cabin's attic. Among them were pictures from the 1960s showing the original cabin construction, with clear views of the property markers that matched exactly with my current documentation. These became valuable evidence of the long-established boundaries. The most shocking discovery came when my attorney's investigator found that a county clerk had been persuaded to temporarily misplace some of my property records right around the time the neighbor's agents first approached me. The records mysteriously reappeared after my attorney started making inquiries. The clerk, when confronted, admitted that the neighbor had offered him concert tickets and restaurant gift cards as appreciation for his help with a simple records check. With mounting evidence, law enforcement finally took notice. The district attorney's office launched an investigation into what was beginning to look like a pattern of fraudulent property schemes. During this investigation, I almost broke. The stress, the constant vigilance, the legal fees that were rapidly depleting my savings, all took their toll. One evening, sitting on what remained of my grandfather's dock, I seriously considered just selling the property and walking away. That night, rummaging through more of my grandfather's belongings, I found his old journal. In it, he had written about a boundary dispute he'd faced in the 1970s with a previous neighbor. His final entry on the matter read, Patience and preparation will outlast entitlement every time. The land remains in our family where it belongs. Those words gave me the strength to continue. The investigation gained momentum when one of the neighbor's agents was picked up on an unrelated fraud charge in another state. Facing serious charges, he offered information about the lakefront scheme in exchange for consideration in his case. According to him, the neighbor had orchestrated similar boundary disputes at 3 other properties, successfully pressuring owners to sell portions of their land or grant easements at below market rates. More damning, investigators discovered the neighbor had created a shell company to hide her connection to the fraudulent claims. The property management company existed only on paper, with a virtual office address and a temporary phone number. The case broke wide open when, in a moment of extraordinary arrogance, the neighbor attempted to bribe an investigator from the district attorney's office who came to question her. Unbeknownst to her, my security cameras, which now covered the disputed area completely, captured the entire interaction, including her offering a consideration if the investigation could be redirected toward more worthy cases. The prosecutor moved quickly after that. The neighbor was arrested and charged with multiple felonies, including fraud, forgery, attempted bribery, and criminal conspiracy. Her agents were picked up in different states and extradited to face charges. Throughout the legal proceedings, I provided testimony and evidence. My meticulous documentation, security footage, and the collection of historical records proved invaluable. During one hearing, the neighbor's expensive attorney tried to characterize the situation as a simple misunderstanding between neighbors, but the evidence was too substantial to dismiss. The most unexpected moment came during the trial when my grandfather's old fishing buddy, now in his 80s, appeared as a witness. He had helped my grandfather build the original dock and could testify to the property boundaries from personal knowledge dating back to the 1960s. His clear-eyed testimony about the original survey markers cemented our case. The neighbor's demeanor throughout the proceedings only hurt her case. When the judge questioned her directly about the forged survey, she responded with such condescension that he had to admonish her for contempt. Her attorney, realizing the extent of her deception, eventually withdrew from the case, citing irreconcilable differences regarding the presentation of evidence. Perhaps the most satisfying revelation came when an FBI agent testified that one of the neighbor's agents had already been under federal investigation for similar land fraud schemes in lakefront communities across 3 states. This wasn't just about my property. It was a sophisticated criminal enterprise targeting vulnerable property owners. After months of legal proceedings, the neighbor was found guilty on multiple counts. The judge, clearly troubled by the calculated nature of the fraud, sentenced her to 5 years in prison and ordered restitution for my legal fees, property damage, and emotional distress. The agents received lesser sentences in exchange for their testimony, but both faced substantial prison time. In a final twist that nobody saw coming, the investigation revealed that the neighbor had been gradually eroding other neighbors' property rights through similar intimidation tactics. 2 other residents came forward during the trial, admitting they had given her easements across their land after being pressured with threats of expensive legal battles they couldn't afford. With the case concluded, I used part of the restitution money to properly restore the cabin. I rebuilt the dock, installed a comprehensive security system, and properly marked the property lines with permanent monuments. The rest of the money went into a fund for the ongoing maintenance of the property. The community's attitude shifted dramatically after the truth emerged. Neighbors who had been distant or suspicious now stopped by to apologize for believing the lies. By midsummer, the atmosphere around the lake had returned to the friendly, respectful community I remembered from my childhood. To celebrate the resolution, I hosted a lakeside barbecue for the neighbors, the attorneys who had helped me, and even the investigators who broke the case. As the sun set over the water, my grandfather's old fishing buddy raised a toast to standing your ground when you know you're right, no matter how powerful the opposition. Looking out over the lake that evening, watching the sunset from the dock my grandfather built, I felt a profound sense of peace. The property that had connected generations of my family remained intact, not because I had more money or influence, but because I had truth and persistence on my side. My grandfather was right. Patience and preparation truly do outlast entitlement, every time. And there's nothing quite as satisfying as watching justice prevail against those who believe their wealth puts them above the law. The next one is entitled People Story. I come from a small town where everyone knows each other. I was raised in a very strict Catholic household. I had a pretty sheltered life growing up. No dating, no parties, none of that stuff. So when I moved to the city for college, it was a whole new world for me. I had total freedom. That's when I met my boyfriend. He's a little older, and honestly, the most amazing person I had ever met. He taught me so much about life and love and made everything feel exciting. I was completely over the moon when we became a couple. We've been together for 3.5 years now. I had so many firsts with him. Naturally, I assumed we would get married. He was my one and only. Then about 8 months ago, he sat me down and told me he felt like our relationship was losing its spark. I was shocked because I thought we were doing really good. For a second, I thought he was about to break up with me. But instead, he said we should open up the relationship and explore polyamory. He said it's more normal now, and that it could actually help bring us closer. I was hurt. Like, really hurt. I couldn't believe he'd even ask me that. But I loved him too much. He's my first love. I didn't want to lose him. So I said yes. He made some rules like, no bringing other people into our beds, we live separately anyway, and to keep things away from places we'd usually go. But honestly, I didn't care about the rules. I couldn't even imagine being with someone else. I only wanted him. But that first month, things didn't get better. I saw him less and less. He was always busy. I checked his social media and saw he started hanging out with some girl. She posted him all the time. I was burning with jealousy, but I didn't say anything. When I did see him, he was sweet like always, but it started to feel like he was just trying to make up for not being around. I felt like I was the one doing all the work planning stuff, texting first, chasing after him, holding on so tight while he felt far away. Then a few months ago, we were supposed to see a movie together, but he bailed on me last minute. I went anyway. While I was there, I ran into one of my friends, and she was with her older brother. We ended up watching the film together, Nosferatu, if you're wondering. Afterward, we grabbed some drinks and I started noticing how attractive and funny he was. I caught him looking at me a certain way too, like maybe he felt something too. I didn't pursue anything though this was also new to me. Liking someone else? That felt so weird. I wasn't used to anyone but my boyfriend. He eventually found me on Instagram, and we started talking. I told him about the open relationship and being poly, and he was super chill about it. He said he was happy to spend time with me without worrying about cheating. We started hanging out more, and honestly, I didn't feel so alone anymore. I didn't feel like I had to beg someone for love. Even the little time I spent with my boyfriend started to feel enough, because my heart didn't feel so empty anymore. One day, after we'd become close friends, he just kissed me on the lips, and it hit me I had feelings for him. Sexual ones. We ended up hooking up not long after. It was amazing. I felt wanted. Cherished. He was so gentle. So generous. I couldn't get enough of him. It felt like he balanced me out in a way I didn't know I needed. I finally understood what being poly could really mean, loving more than one person in a way that felt real and full. I grew very attracted. We even joined the gym together and started working out. He's a busy guy but always made time for me. Always invited me into his world and his hobbies. I felt special. And giddy. Then this week, my boyfriend comes to me and says, I think we should close the relationship and focus on each other. I was confused. I asked him, why? Things are going really good for us. He said it's time to think about the future and building something serious. Then he brought up religion. You're Catholic. You should understand. If you want this to last, it has to just be the two of us. When I hesitated, he started guilt-tripping me. Like I was doing something wrong. Like I wasn't thinking about us. I love him. I really do. But now, I feel confused. I feel upset. I didn't ask for any of this. He opened the door, and I just followed because I loved him. And now that I found a little peace, a little joy, he wants to shut it all down. It feels unfair. Just wanted this off my chest. Update. Thank you to everyone who offered advice, clarity, and support. I wanted to share where things stand now after having some difficult conversations. I spoke to my boyfriend and told him I don't want to close the open relationship. I've grown to really enjoy dating the other guy, and it's not something I agreed to just to experiment. I told him it should be a joint decision. You can't just open and close a relationship as you please, especially when someone else's feelings are involved. I also told him I was incredibly disappointed he brought up my faith, knowing how much trauma and guilt I've carried from my religious upbringing and how felt manipulative and unfair. He didn't respond to my comments about religion, but instead said, if you want a future with me, this needs to end, or we're done. I told him, then it's done. He got heated and said I was throwing away nearly 4 years of our relationship for a guy I've only been seeing for a few months, and tried to make me feel guilty. But I reminded him that he was the one who lost the spark, who wanted to sleep with other women, and who opened the relationship in the first place, not me. I just agreed because I loved him and hoped he would realize I'm the only one for him. I didn't ask for this. After some time, he calmed down. We had a long, emotional conversation. He cried. He apologized. He told me he should have ended things instead of trying to fix our relationship with polyamory. He admitted he still loves me and that seeing me happy with someone else made him feel jealous, even though he knew he had no right to be. He said he probably deserves the pain, and he respects my decision to end it. We hugged and agreed that even though our relationship is over, the first 2 years were beautiful. We'll always have a place in each other's hearts, even though relationship has run its course. Later, I met up with other guy I've been seeing. I told him everything. I ended things with my boyfriend because I didn't want to let him go. I told him I'm not rushing into anything, that I don't expect him to give me all his time or energy right away, but I'd love to date and see where things go. That's when he opened up and told me that watching me stay with my boyfriend while we were seeing each other was hard. He said it hurt him, but he kept quiet because he liked me so much and he knew what he was getting into. He never intended to be in a polyamorous relationship, but only agreed to it because he really wanted to be with me and didn't want to lose the chance. He secretly hoped we'd break up because, in his words, you deserve someone who only wants you incompletely. He said he likes me a lot, sees a future with me, and wants also to just date each other for now. We're not rushing into exclusivity, but we've both agreed not to see other people and see how this naturally unfolds. The next one is entitled People Story. I've been living with my roommates for 3 months now. I knew them for about a year before moving in and I thought they were pretty cool, but I don't know now. They've known each other for years, since high school. Anyway, in the first month I brought someone home from town and he ended up staying the night. One of my roommates saw him leave in the morning and told the other one and they kinda gave me crap for a while, but eventually they got over it, or so I thought. The next time I had a friend, girl, stay over the night and we watched movies. I asked if I could have her over, and they both said that's fine but complained afterwards that we had made too much noise and that they didn't want that friend over again, night or day, because she laughed too loudly. She does, but banning someone from the house because laughing? I said fine, whatever, and we've done movie nights at her place since. I've recently been seeing this guy though for about a month and he's stayed over 3 times since then. The first night they thought it was a one-night stand thing again and gave me crap. Second night they kinda seemed annoyed and one said we had been using the bathroom too much. His room is right next to it. I didn't think we had, but I said okay, but they didn't say I couldn't bring him over again. Third night they told me he wasn't allowed over again because it was their space and he used the bathroom too much and they could hear us having sex all night. We had sex once and it was in the morning, so I don't really know what they were hearing. Also, he only used the bathroom once and I told him to be really quiet and he was, but they said they don't want me bringing people over anymore and that I can go to the person's house if I'm gonna keep doing it. I can get it if it was for safety, like if I was bringing random guys into the house, but for friends and a guy I've been seeing? There is another flatmate, girl, who is always at her boyfriend's, but she was there one night and said she didn't hear anything and she is right next to my room, so I think they may be making crap up. They bring guys over and play Xbox till like 3 in the morning and their friends pass out on the couch. I'm getting pretty annoyed with all the hypocrisy. I would move but can't afford to move out right now/live on my own, but are they being reasonable? Am I being a bad roommate? I was way worse with my other flat, brought home guys all the time, and no one ever complained. How can I go about making them more okay with me having people over? Or do I just have to deal with it? Update: I honestly cannot believe how quickly things escalated, and I'm sorry for not updating sooner, but I've been ridiculously stressed and busy with what happened. So following the advice posted, I continued bringing over my, now, boyfriend and ignoring them if they idioted about it. Things came to a huge head last weekend, and I've spent the last week dealing with the fallout. Last Saturday he came over and we were going to have an early night so we could do some hiking in the morning. Roommates were drinking with their friends playing Xbox, making loads of noise, so I went out and asked if they could keep it down. I honestly thought they were fine. Me and him were able to sleep until about 4 a.m. when one of them burst into our room with a ducking baseball bat and starting smashing crap. He was screaming things about how I had embarrassed him in front of his friends when I didn't have the decency to shut up, calling me a slut and a whore. I thought he was going to kill me, but my boyfriend jumped up and starting trying to restrain him. The other roommate ran in and starting helping. My boyfriend got smacked in the nose and blood was running everywhere. I was on the phone with police by this point. They came and he was arrested. My boyfriend had to go to hospital. Tim had broken his nose, and about $350 worth of damage was done to my belongings. The other roommate has not stopped apologizing to me nonstop about how he didn't realize that the crazy roommate was that bad, and he was just trying to back up an old friend. But he said my boyfriend is welcome anytime. Me and my boyfriend both have a restraining order against crazy roommate and the police came with him as he moved out all his crap, and we've gotten the locks changed. I'm still looking at moving out as soon as possible, and I'm staying most nights at my boyfriend's. I'm struggling to sleep because I'm sure someone is going to burst in the room. I can't believe I could misjudge someone so much. The next one is entitled People Story. So first off, I know the age gap probably should have been a red flag, but I was stupid. We've been together for 2 years, but he lives in a different city. When I got pregnant, he said he was going to move to my city and we would move in together. He just needed to finalize some things with his ex-wife. He told me he was divorced when we met and I never had any reason to question it. I knew that he had 2 kids with her as well. He told me the truth about that, just not that he wasn't divorced, or even separated. So fast forward, I'm 39 weeks and he suddenly got uncommunicative, which is less than ideal when you're literally about to give birth. Bear in mind that he was supposed to have been fully moved in here a month ago, blamed COVID. Today I found out I'm going to be induced on Monday unless baby decides to come out over the weekend, so I contacted him and I was like, okay, what's going on? And that's when he told me that he isn't actually separated or divorced. He never told his wife about anything. And now he felt like he was backed into a corner. I don't feel sorry for him for that because that's his own fault. But obviously literally 4 days before giving birth isn't the time you want to get this news, and I have no idea what to do now. Tell him to duck off, obviously. But what else? I feel like I can take care of the baby, but I was preparing to have a partner to take care of it with me, you know? I don't even know what I'm asking for in terms of advice, but any advice for moving forward and handling this is appreciated. The next one is entitled People Story. My boyfriend and I have been dating for 3.5 years. Back in August of 2018, my boyfriend and I went to my best friend's birthday party. It was pretty small, 10 or so people. We both met this girl, a coworker of my best friend, who didn't know anyone else there. At the party, my boyfriend and her were talking quite a bit, and I was with them for a lot of the night and we got along well. But since I was close with a lot of people there, I obviously had conversations with other people there, whereas my boyfriend and her were not close to most of the people there and therefore talked more. I was super happy that my boyfriend was being outgoing and talkative because he can be a bit asocial at parties, and didn't think anything of them talking a lot, other than yay he's having fun. Lol. In December of 2018, the girl reaches out to my boyfriend on Instagram. She got both of our Instagrams back in August, and asks him to meet up for lunch to catch up, and they go back and forth about saying how much they got along and how they feel like they could be really good friends / how they don't want to miss out. He showed me the first few messages, and I found it weird how expressive they were about how much they liked each other even though they were only talking for a few hours, much of the time with other people, including myself. I haven't looked at his texts, but she does text him late at night sometimes, and he never replies to her when I'm there. I don't want to cross that line, but honestly I feel tempted to. I talked to him about it a few times, saying I'm uncomfortable about them meeting up / that it's weird. Like several months after meeting for a few hours, my best friend thinks it's weird too. It's just weird, and I'm uncomfortable. They are planning to meet up and it just makes my heart really heavy and sad. He also told me yesterday that he told her I was uncomfortable with him and her getting along, which I felt was kinda slap in the face because he has admitted that it's weird, but kinda put me in a bad light, then later said he said it in a joking way. Every time I bring it up he talks about when I go out with friends in a group and a guy is there, even though I have always been 100% faithful and never been shady, and never wanted to meet up with someone I met at a party alone. He has had a past which has made it hard for me to trust him. He texted his ex asking to hang out 2 days before he asked me to be his official girlfriend. We were seeing each other exclusively for 3 months before. And also was being extremely flirty, talking about sex, thongs, etc., a few months into our relationship over text with one of his friend's ex-girlfriends. This is a whole mess, Lamau. Kinda all over the place. Just want to know if this is like normal and if I should get over it. Update: I first just want to say thank you to the many people who have reached out to me both publicly and privately about my post. I never expected to get so much support or to do an update post, but some have requested it, and I feel like you guys have been so awesome that I can't not do one, haha. Last night, I broke up with him. I confronted him again about the situation, showed him the original post here, and asked to see the text messages between them, and he showed me. As I was reading the texts aloud, I felt sick to my stomach. The texts read that he thought about her weeks after meeting. Almost all the texts were paragraphs where they were flirty and witty, containing winky faces, a lot of winky faces. They complimented each other a lot, not about like physical attributes but more about their personalities. He also said she would fit well in his friend group, and they had this weird conversation about being shady and flirtatiously argued about whether it's a good thing or not. It's still confused about that. And then finally the all-time weirdest thing was that she brought up New Year's, which is my birthday, and he told her what we did, and that's when he brought up how I'm uncomfortable and stuff, and she replied along the lines of, I understand, it's hard to know someone's intentions, and then said that I could come the next time they hang out. Lol. He denies having any bad intentions, which I sort of believe, but when you have texts like that I don't think intent is what really matters, because he's sending out signals to the girl and that crossed the line in our relationship. A second part which is equally important is that this situation made me realize that we weren't like that anymore. I understand relationships get to be in that comfortable stage which is completely fine and normal, but I don't think I have romantic feelings for him anymore. Additionally, you need trust in a relationship, and I was coming to the conclusion that I don't trust him, and maybe that is on me. This situation was kind of just the tipping point in our relationship. We both made mistakes, and I need to work on things within myself. We grew up together, and bonded and shared many great memories. He will always be an important part of my life, and there will always be love there. I don't want to de-emphasize that. I'm starting school again in less than a week and I'm going to make an effort to improve myself and grow. Thank you for all the kind words, advice, and just the fact that many of you took the time out of your day to be compassionate to another human. You all have really helped me, and I hope everyone continues to be kind, because you never know how far it can touch someone. Are you hungry for more slices of stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to never miss out on any videos. See you tomorrow at Story Slices.